Have you ever felt stuck? Caught in a loop of doing things a certain way just because, well, that's just how they've always been done? Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful mental model that's designed to smash right through those old habits and give you the power of a clean slate. It's called zero-based thinking.
It seems like such a simple question, right? But the answer is actually pretty deep. We get trapped by old decisions, by outdated processes, and honestly, just by the sheer momentum of history. But what if we could just hit reset? What if we could look at our biggest challenges as if we were seeing them for the very first time?
This quote really gets to the heart of it. This isn't just about changing your mind. It's a deep, systematic process. It's about taking apart the old machine to really see how it works, and then building a brand new one from scratch, based only on what's absolutely essential and true.
So, first things first, let's really understand the prison before we start planning the escape. We're talking about the invisible walls of legacy thinking, that cage built by the simple phrase, because we've always done it this way. So there's actually a name for this trap: historical bias. It's the way our decisions get all twisted and distorted by stuff that's already happened. A huge part of this is something called path dependency, which is just the idea that the choices we made yesterday create a path that can seriously and sometimes totally irrationally limit our options today.
And you see this bias pop up in a few key ways. We cling to outdated systems. We carry around these inherited biases, a lot of the time without even knowing it. We get bogged down in institutional inertia, where a whole organization is just too big and slow to change. And we can even fall into these competency traps, where we get so good at the old way of doing things that we literally can't imagine a better one.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one. But what's the solution? Well, it starts with adopting a really powerful idea called the clean slate mindset, which we formally call zero-based thinking. Now, it's really important to get this. Zero-based thinking isn't just some casual brainstorming session. It is a disciplined act. It's about consciously wiping the slate clean of all your assumptions and rebuilding your strategy or your budget or your process based only on what you can prove is necessary and effective right here, right now. I love this phrasing. It's so powerful. An epistemological purge. That's the act of clearing out all the old, unexamined junk you think you know. Once that's done, you move on to design renewal, building something new, sleek, and perfectly suited for the present. It's a two-step dance. First, you tear it all down, then you build it back up better. So let's talk about that first step, demolition. This is the deconstruction phase. This is where you get out the mental sledgehammer and you start taking down those invisible walls of legacy thinking. All right, so here's your toolkit for the job. First, you have to bust assumptions, every single hidden rule you operate by. You have to ask, is this actually really true? Then, you dismantle the logic behind what you're currently doing, taking apart the old why piece by piece. And finally, you have to actively remove those legacy systems and beliefs that are only there because of inertia. And the engine that drives this entire deconstruction process? It's this one simple, incredibly powerful word. You have to ask why over and over and over again, kind of like a curious little kid, until you get to the absolute rock bottom reason for something. And if that reason isn't solid, the whole structure comes tumbling down. The ultimate goal here is something called cognitive defamiliarization. Okay, it's a fancy term, but it's basically making the things you do every single day seem strange and new again. It's only when you do that that you can look at them with a truly unbiased view and see them for what they really are. So once you've done the demolition, once you have that clean slate, that empty plot of land, now it's time for the exciting part. This is the reconstruction phase, where you get to be the architect of something entirely new. And what do you build on? You build on first principles. Now, these are not assumptions or old habits. They are the fundamental, undeniable truths of your situation. Think of them as the bedrock, the load-bearing walls of your new strategy. Everything you build has to be built upon them. And here's what that shift in thinking looks like side by side. Instead of relying on inherited logic, you're starting from first principles. You replace that historical bias with a totally unbiased view. You stop making these tiny incremental changes and instead, you do a complete ground-up review. The goal is no longer to defend the past, it's to demand a justification for everything you do right now. So the rebuilding process itself has three key stages. First up is ideation, where you get to dream up all these new possibilities without any of the old baggage holding you back. Then comes evaluation, where you test those ideas really rigorously. And finally, Validation, where you confirm that your new model actually works out there in the real world.
So why go through all this trouble? It sounds like a lot of work, right? Well, it is. But the payoff is immense. This final part is all about the incredible power of starting over and the breakthroughs it can unlock. The ultimate reward for all this hard work is something we can call yield. And this isn't just another new idea. It's a profound new insight. It's the return on your intellectual investment, that incredible aha moment when a problem that seemed impossibly complex suddenly becomes simple. And that aha moment, that yield, leads to all of this. We're talking truly innovative solutions that were just invisible before. Conceptual breakthroughs that can redefine an entire field, complete strategic renewal for a whole organization, and for you, personally, a powerful new perspective and the mental flexibility, the cognitive agility to tackle any challenge that comes your way.
When you boil it all down, zero-based thinking is really a tool for radical alignment. It's all about making sure that what you are doing is perfectly designed for the world as it is today, not the world as it was yesterday.
And that brings us to the final question. And this one is for you. In your work, in your life, what is the one process, the one assumption, or the one belief that you hold on to simply out of habit? What's one thing that desperately needs a blank slate? Really think about it. The answer might just change everything.